Alright, so this one right here is by special request from a viewer. Welcome back to BrainFLoTv. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, please, and let's get right into the story. Hannah Payne has now been found guilty, and she has been sentenced. She was hit with a life sentence. Let's get into the details so you understand what happened and how we ended up here and how some people are feeling very vindicated or feeling very happy that this is the outcome, while other people are saying, man, it shouldn't have been like that. Look, according to 11 Alive, right? Hannah Payne, she did her testimony in court. We're going to run through the details of her testimony in court. But just to let y'all know, an accident occurred. A non-fatal accident. No one was injured in this accident. So one vehicle hit another vehicle. Apparently, long story short, the driver of the vehicle that caused the accident was an elderly black man. And he was apparently going through a medical crisis. However, Hannah, being a Caucasian woman, jumps into the scene with her Superwoman cape on and decided to handle the situation. She was told multiple times to leave this man alone. The police were on their way. They will handle the situation. She took matters into her own hands, which resulted in this elderly black man losing his life after being shot by Hannah Payne. Let's get into the details. So, she got on the stand and she testified. She said, he knocked my phone out of my hand and he grabbed me by my wrist and he pulled me into his vehicle. That's what she said in court on the stand. Hannah Payne took the stand for the first time in her own trial. It was a Monday afternoon. She's accused of murdering a shooting in 2019, which ended in the death of a man named Kenneth Herring. I say murder because that's what it was. You know, before I get into those details, I know everything is not about race, but would she have treated a elderly white man the same way? Would her gun have gone off? It was an accident where no one was injured until she caused injury at the accident scene and turned it into a murder scene. But let's get right into it. So the police says that she reportedly followed him with an accident after the accident happened, allegedly confronting him and telling him to return to the scene of the accident. In court, it is said that Mr. Herring was having a diabetic shock situation going on with him, and he was trying to get to medical help, and Hannah was not having any of that. Her main goal was, you're going to do as I say, get back to the scene where you just hit that other car, and, you know, he was trying to get away. So a witness at the time described what happened to be a medical emergency occurring with Mr. Herring. This is an eyewitness. When asked what kind of medical emergency, the eyewitness said it looked like a diabetic shock. His wife also said she believes that her husband was having a diabetic episode and he was trying to get to the hospital because he is severely diabetic. The standout from her testimony, Payne's testimony, Payne was claiming that she had no intentions of shooting Mr. Herring and that she believes that during their interaction that Mr. Herring was the one that could have possibly accidentally pulled her gun trigger and fired the gun, hitting himself. So she took no accountability. My gun accidentally went off. I don't know. I had the gun out because I was scared. No, he pulled my trigger on my gun, killing himself. So 11 Alive News kept on going. They used some video footage that was obtained by Court TV. Payne told court that one of the witnesses of the crash stated to her that he was a state police officer and flashed his badge to her and instructed her to go after Mr. Herring. She said she was not under the impression that he was a corrections officer. She thought it was a state police officer giving her instructions. This got weird. Why would the police, right, show up at a scene where there's an accident, flash their badge, and then instruct a civilian to do police work. It's crazy. Anyhow, she claims that the second witness insinuated that Herring was drunk and encouraged her to follow him by gesturing her in the direction of travel after Herring took off. Like, yo, he went that way. Go that way, that way. While on the phone with the 911 dispatcher in her own vehicle, Payne claims that the dispatcher asked her for Herring's tag number. She recalls the dispatcher discouraging her from chasing Herring only once, but check it. The dispatcher told her it was not safe. It wasn't safe. Stop. Stop chasing him. Leave him alone. She said she was also unaware that the dispatcher may have already had the tag number. So this dispatcher actually told her multiple times, stop chasing this man. Leave this man alone. We got this. The police is on the way. He's in traffic trying to weave through traffic. He's not going anywhere. And it was a small fender bender accident. It wasn't anybody died in the accident kind of thing. Now, once she's still chasing Mr. Herring. Mr. Herring throughout this time is still trying to get through traffic so he can get down to a hospital quickly or something. Now, once she reached Mr. Herring's car, it is said that she got out of the vehicle, her vehicle, with her cell phone. She put the cell phone on speakerphone, and she was on the speakerphone with the dispatcher for 911. The prosecution actually showed photos in court of Payne's vehicle appeared to be cutting off Mr. Herring's vehicle. So she drives around and puts her vehicle sideways in the street, cutting his vehicle off so he couldn't go any further. Then she jumps out of her vehicle like on some Hollywood movie type, I'm the arresting officer. Payne maintains that that did not happen. Even though they had photographs of her car being in that position, she said it didn't happen. She said either they asked her to explain, so how did your vehicle end up here, blocking this man's vehicle? Either he was merging and his vehicle finally gave up, she said. She said, look at all the fluids that was leaking out of his vehicle from the accident. His vehicle just gave up and it stopped right there. It still didn't explain how her vehicle ended up in a position blocking his vehicle to where it could not have a clear path to go. The prosecution gave Payne a copy of the 911 transcript where it shows that the dispatcher actually discouraged her from chasing Mr. Herring 4 times. Remember, in her testimony, this is her on the stand, right? In court. And she said, I don't recall her telling me to not chase him. Maybe she did once. Well, they gave her the printout, the transcript of the 911 call, and she read through it, and it clearly stated at least 4 times to leave this man alone. Her attorney came to the conclusion that Payne and the dispatcher were possibly just too loud, talking over each other, so Payne might have missed the 4 warnings to leave this man alone. She then explained, right, that she got out of her vehicle because dispatch asked her and others to return to the scene of the accident now that the police had arrived at the scene. Payne said she took that to mean that she should return to the scene, but she should also bring Mr. Herring with her. I don't know. She assumed a lot of responsibility. Apparently, she said, I was close enough for him to reach out the car. He knocked my phone out of my hand, and he grabbed me by my wrist, and he pulled me into his vehicle. This is her describing what took place and how a gun came into play and how the gun went off. Payne said Herring grabbed her by the wrist and grabbed her top that she was wearing through the window, sitting in the car still. Payne's attorneys showed photos of marks on her body from the exchange that they alleged went down and a torn blouse top that Payne claimed to have been wearing that day. Payne felt that she was in danger of being dragged along the roadway from a car that was not moving, by the way. It felt like it lasted forever, she said. And I just remember it was like I saw my life that was flashing right before my eyes. Payne said she reached out for what she said is her registered weapon. And the registered weapon was holstered on her hip. She said she took self-defense classes and she went to the gun range frequently. So she's very good at handling her weapon. Her attorney showed a demonstration with a toy gun in court. She said Herring grabbed her neck. Mr. Herring grabbed her neck and grabbed the gun at the same time. And that's when she said the gun went off. Payne said that she didn't plan to shoot. She just wanted to get away. Now, if your gun is holstered to your hip, and this man, first of all, he is in the car. He is going through a diabetic shock issue. Everybody, eyewitnesses are seeing this. They're saying something is very wrong with this guy. But of course, the first thing people assume is he on drugs or is he drunk? Yeah, here's a black man out in traffic, spazzing out. He must be on drugs, right? Okay, people make their initial, but there were people on the scene who work in the medical field, and they were like, yo, he looks like he's going through a diabetic shock type of situation. In her explanation, he was so coordinated. He grabbed her blouse. He grabbed her wrist. He was trying to pull her into the vehicle. He grabbed her gun. He pulled the trigger. If the gun is holstered to your hip, how did he pull the trigger from that angle, him sitting in the car, fired a gun on himself? Anyways, she went on to say she just wanted to get away. Pulling it out, he would let me go, and I would pull away from the vehicle, and that would be it. That's what she thought was going to happen. So she said she pulls the gun from her holster, like wanted to scare him, wanted to say, hey, I got a gun. Let go of me. And he would pull away from her. The prosecution clarified that Herring never presented a weapon and that during the conversation with dispatch, she stated that she understood that the dispatcher asked her not to chase Herring. This is a dispatcher, not 911 dispatcher talking to you. A 911 dispatcher is going to say, ma'am, you need to stand down. Ma'am, do not chase the suspect. Ma'am, are you still chasing the suspect? You're going to say yes. The dispatcher would say, ma'am, I've instructed you twice. I'll instruct you again. Please do not chase the suspect. This can be dangerous. Ma'am, do not chase the suspect. The police is on their way. Like that, right? Payne is indicted for malice murder, 2 counts of felony murder, aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime. That was her charges. And then we fast forward to where she was sentenced to life in prison for the murder of a man during what they tried to pass off as a citizen's arrest. A good citizen that was just protecting her county. Hannah Payne is 25 years old. She was found guilty of the death of 62-year-old Kenneth Herring in Clayton County, Georgia. And she will spend the rest of her life behind bars with the chance of parole, of course. She was handcuffed. She was wearing prison uniform. She was overcome with emotions as Judge Joel C. Scott sentenced her to life in prison with the possibility of parole plus 8 years and 5 years, which are to be served consecutively. Not concurrently, consecutively. Concurrently means the 8 and the 5 would run together and you would end up serving the longer sentence knowing that the 5 was wrapped up in that 8 somewhere. So you wouldn't have to serve 5 somewhere and then go serve 8 again. Consecutively means exactly that. That's not what an attorney wants for their client. They would prefer to hear concurrently, but she got consecutively. So she got a life sentence plus 8 years plus 5 years. So she will have to do 8, and then she will have to do another 5 on top of that 8, plus her life sentence. Now, a Clayton County jury convicted Payne of felony murder, malice murder, aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and 3 charges of weapons possession during a crime on Wednesday. Before declaring her sentence, Scott heard from members of Herring's family who asked her to give Payne life in prison. This is the victim impact part of the trial where the family members speak. I no longer have my big brother. This is Mr. Herring's sister, his younger sister. She was tearing up while she was remembering the times that they were growing up together. You know, this part of the trial is basically to put impact, to humanize the individual who lost their lives, and to also have the courtroom understand the magnitude of who was taken away and what this meant to the family and whatnot. His grandchildren, they won't get to know him. He has 2 children who don't have a father anymore. There were 6 of us. Now there's 5 of us that are left. Kenneth's sister remembers her big brother as the type who would always boss the rest of the kids around, and he would leave jokes on her answering machine even as a grown man. They were pretty close. She says now, I can't call him if I wanted to. I can't visit him if I wanted to. I can go to the gravesite, but he can't respond. You know, it was sad just listening to her, right? Then another person, Rihanna, a friend of of Payne, talked about watching Hannah grow up and how she supported both her and her mother while they dealt with cancer. This is the part where they're trying to humanize the individual that's about to be sentenced to life as well. For Mr. Herring's family, I would like for you to know that her heart has broken a million times. And in spite of anything that anyone has alleged or told you, please know that from the depths of her heart and her soul, she would have never wanted harm to come to your loved one. Now, that was the corniest part of this whole sentence for me, trial for me, because here is someone else speaking on her behalf about her heart and what she feels in her heart. You can't speak about what another person feels in their heart. They got to speak that. And she had the opportunity to get up in court and speak that. In our mind, when you look at 43 years and you're only 25, all the good years are gone, she said. She called the sentence a victory and says that even if Payne eventually gets parole, she will still have to serve at least 43 years. This is the case that got national attention, but the district attorney, Mosley, says they do not believe the murder was race-related, and she called the sentence a victory. So Hannah Payne will have to serve a minimum. She's 25. She is 25 years old, and she will have to serve a minimum of 43 years before she is eligible for parole. 5 and 3 is 8, and 4 and 2 is 6. She'll be almost 70 years old when she goes to the parole board. You know, Hannah Payne went out there, and let me be for real, this is what I really feel like happened. She never owned up to what happened. She tried to lie her way out of this. This is a typical thing that happens, right? We've seen the Karen videos. We've seen the videos of Caucasian women saying, oh, I'm going to call the police, and I'll just tell them that it's a black man with a gun and I'm threatened and I fear for my life. Now, that's a dangerous thing to do. Okay, and every black person in the United States of America knows this, that when a white woman calls 911 and she says, black man with a gun and I'm scared, or I'm in fear of my life and it's a black man, that the police is coming with a vengeance. Okay, and she kind of like tried to play that card in court, right? All I was trying to do was trying to get him to get back to the scene of the crime. Never mind the dispatcher telling you from 911, leave that man alone. We've got police on the way. They're in the area. He's not going to get too far. Is he speeding away? Is he speeding down the street 100 miles an hour, about to hit anybody, hurt anybody? No one is in danger. He's going through a medical crisis. He's driving away in slow motion. Leave that man alone. The police will be there. And the police did get there. And they kept telling her, leave him alone. And she still pursued, right? To the point where a gun gets involved. And now it turns into, I got up to his car and I was trying to tell him to get back to the scene. Jumps, blocks his car in the middle of the street. Jumps out of her car like Super Cop. Goes up to his window and claims that he grabbed her blouse. He grabbed her wrist. That man probably was nonverbal. His diabetic shock. He was probably trying to signal her to help me. That's why if indeed he did grab anything, right? She took it as he's trying to drag me into the car and he is going to start the car up and run the car again and drive me down the street. Now, mind you, she also testified in court that his vehicle came to a complete stop. Right. So he was going to like drag you down the street and you feared for your life. So instead of running away from the person you feared for your life, who didn't have a gun or anything, you pulled your gun and you fired your gun. And then you stood in court and claimed that your finger was never on the trigger of your weapon and he's the one that squeezed your trigger and shot himself. She took no accountability for it, and she was hoping that the system would be on her side. And I'm sorry to say it, but she kind of like played the race card, but it didn't work for her, right? And at the end of the day, his family gets some type of justice, knowing that he was not killed and then the killer walked away. All this could have been avoided. Leave the police alone. Allow the police to do their work. Some of these people feel like it's their duty to police other citizens, especially where the race dynamic is concerned. I won't even spell that out for you. You already know what that means, right? And I'm myself happy to see that justice was served. Going to prison at 25 years old, hit with 43 years before parole, plus she must do that 8 years and then do that 5-year stint, and then she'll be eligible for parole. So actually, 68 plus 8 plus 5, I don't know, 2 8 16s. Let's put the 1 right there. I'm doing math, y'all. 6 plus 2. Nah. It can't be that she'll be 81 years old by the time she's released. Was it worth it? Or you should have just let the police do their job. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about this one. All the years they give her in prison will not be able to bring back this man, Mr. Kenneth Herring, a 62-year-old man who had lived to be 62 and had never gotten into anything. And here he was laying dead from a gunshot wound because he did a fender bender accident while having a diabetic issue and lost his life at an overzealous citizen who felt like that was the right thing to do. Now, let me ask you at the end of this video, do you think that if Mr. Herring was a white man like Hannah Payne, would she have dealt with this situation in a different way with no gun involved? Hey, buddy, are you all right? You need to get back to the car scene, to the accident scene. The police are coming. I'm on the phone with dispatcher. Would it have been like that instead of her gun coming into play? I'll catch y'all in the comment section. I'm out. Peace.